The year was 1961. The Cold War gripped the world. Nowhere was its icy hand felt more keenly than in Berlin. This once grand city, now scarred by war, found itself on the very front line of a different kind of conflict. It was a clash of ideologies, a battle between communism and capitalism. In the aftermath of World War II, Germany and Berlin itself had been divided. The Soviet Union controlled the East, while the West came under the influence of the United States, Great Britain and France. For years, East Germans, desperate for a better life, fled to the West, draining the East German workforce and embarrassing the communist regime. Then, on a fateful August night, the unthinkable happened. Under the cover of darkness, East German troops backed by the Soviet Union began to erect a barrier. It was a barrier of barbed wire and concrete designed to cut the city in two, to stem the flow of people fleeing to the west. This was the birth of the Berlin Wall, a stark symbol of division, a physical manifestation of the Iron Curtain that had descended across Europe. It would stand for 28 years, a testament to the human cost of the Cold War. Amidst the concrete jungle of the Berlin Wall, one crossing point became etched in history: Checkpoint Charlie. It was the most famous crossing point between East and West Berlin, a gateway through the wall, a place of high tension and high drama. For nearly 3 decades, Checkpoint Charlie was a focal point of Cold War intrigue. Soviet and American tanks faced off here in 1961, a stark reminder of the stakes involved. The world held its breath, fearing the worst, as the two superpowers stood on the brink of conflict. For ordinary Berliners, Checkpoint Charlie was a place of both hope and heartbreak. It was here that families separated by the wall could catch a glimpse of loved ones. It was a place of tearful reunions and agonizing farewells, a poignant reminder of the human cost of the Cold War. The Berlin Wall was designed to be impenetrable, a concrete barrier to freedom. Yet the human spirit proved to be an even greater force. Driven by hope and a yearning for a better life, countless East Germans dared to escape. Their methods were as ingenious as they were daring. Some tunneled under the wall while others flew over it in hot air balloons or even light aircraft. Some were successful, their stories becoming legendary tales of courage and determination. Others, however, were not so lucky. The East German authorities were ruthless in their pursuit of escapees. Guard towers loomed over the wall, manned by soldiers with orders to shoot on sight. The risks were enormous, but for many, the desire for freedom outweighed the fear of death. The Berlin Wall was more than just a physical barrier. It was a wall through families, a wall through lives. It tore apart the fabric of society, separating husbands from wives, parents from children, and friends from friends. West Berliners could only watch in anguish as their loved ones were trapped on the other side. For East Berliners, the wall meant separation from family, friends, and opportunities denied. The emotional toll was immeasurable, leaving scars that would last a lifetime. Despite the risks, some West Berliners risked everything to help their loved ones escape. They smuggled in fake passports, provided shelter, and even helped dig tunnels. The bonds of family and friendship proved stronger than the concrete and barbed wire. Section 5, Winds of Change, Protests and Reform in the East. As the 1980s dawned, the grip of communism began to loosen across Eastern Europe. In Poland, the Solidarity movement challenged the Soviet-backed regime. In the Soviet Union itself, Mikhail Gorbachev's policies of glasnost and perestroika unleashed forces for change. East Germany, however, remained under the iron-fisted rule of Erich Honecker. Protests were met with brutal repression, but the winds of change were blowing, and even the Berlin Wall could not stand forever against their force. Inspired by events elsewhere, East Germans grew bolder in their demands for freedom and democracy. Protests, once small and sporadic, gained momentum, fueled by a yearning for change and a desire to tear down the wall that had divided their nation for far too long. Section 6, Gorbachev and the Wall's Unraveling. In Moscow, Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms were sending shockwaves through the Soviet Empire. Glasnost, or openness, allowed for greater freedom of expression, while perestroika aimed to restructure the stagnant Soviet economy. These reforms had unintended consequences. As the Soviet Union loosened its grip on its Eastern European satellites, cracks began to appear in the Iron Curtain. In 1989, Hungary opened its border with Austria, creating a hole in the Iron Curtain through which East Germans could escape to the West. Faced with mounting pressure at home and abroad, the East German government made a fateful decision. On November 9, 1989, they announced that East Germans would be free to travel to the West. It was a decision that would change the course of history. Section 7, November 9, 1989, the night the wall fell. The news spread like wildfire through Berlin. Could it be true? Was the wall really open? Thousands of East Berliners, incredulous but hopeful, flocked to the border crossings, demanding to be let through. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of people, the border guards, confused and lacking clear instructions, finally relented. The barriers were lifted and East Germans surged through, met with cheers and embraces from West Berliners on the other side. The scenes that unfolded that night were nothing short of euphoric. Strangers embraced, tears of joy streamed down faces, and the sound of hammering rang out as people began to chip away at the wall that had separated them for so long. The Berlin Wall, once a symbol of oppression, was being torn down, brick by brick, by the very people it had sought to confine. Section 8. Euphoria and uncertainty, the aftermath of the fall. The fall of the Berlin Wall triggered a wave of euphoria across the world. It was a victory for freedom, a triumph over tyranny, and a testament to the power of the human spirit. But amidst the celebrations, there were also uncertainties. What would become of Germany? Would the two halves, divided for so long, be able to reunite? And what about the Soviet Union? Would Gorbachev's reforms lead to the collapse of the communist bloc? The world watched with bated breath as events unfolded. The fall of the Berlin Wall had set in motion a chain of events that would transform the geopolitical landscape. The Cold War, which had cast a long shadow over the world for decades, was coming to an end. Section 9. Reunification. A nation reunited. The fall of the Berlin Wall paved the way for German reunification. Less than a year later, on October 3, 1990, East and West Germany were formally reunited, ending decades of division. It was a joyous occasion, marked by celebrations across the country. Reunification was not without its challenges. The economic disparities between East and West Germany were significant, and it would take years to integrate the two economies. But the German people, with characteristic determination, embraced the challenges and opportunities of reunification. The reunification of Germany was a watershed moment in European history. It marked the end of the Cold War order and the beginning of a new era in Europe, one characterized by cooperation and integration. Section 10. The Wall in Ruins, a symbol of freedom. In the years that followed, the Berlin Wall was dismantled piece by piece. Sections of the wall were preserved as memorials, stark reminders of a divided past, but for the most part, the wall was reduced to rubble, its concrete fragments scattered around the world as souvenirs. The fall of the Berlin Wall became a potent symbol of freedom, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, and a reminder that even the most seemingly insurmountable barriers can be overcome. It showed the world that change is possible, that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Section 11. Legacy of the Wall. Lessons for the future. 35 years after its fall, the legacy of the Berlin Wall continues to resonate. It stands as a reminder of the human cost of division, the importance of freedom, and the power of hope. The lessons of the Berlin Wall are as relevant today as they were in 1989. In a world still grappling with walls, both literal and metaphorical, the story of the Berlin Wall offers a glimmer of hope. It reminds us that walls, no matter how high or how strong, cannot hold back the human desire for freedom and unity. The fall of the Berlin Wall teaches us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, change is possible, and hope must never be extinguished.